Daddy, that lady looks like Mommy. Michael barely glanced up as he cut waffles into smaller pieces for his 5-year-old daughter, Olivia. Sweetheart, don't point at people, it's not polite. But when he finally looked, his entire world stopped. The fork slipped from his hand with a metallic clink. Less than 10 feet away stood a waitress. The smile, the way she brushed her curly hair behind her ear, the familiar eyes, everything was identical to Sarah, his wife, the woman he had buried 2 years earlier. It was impossible. Michael had been there in the hospital, seen her body, cried over her closed casket, and scattered her ashes in the lake where they had first met. Sarah was gone, and yet, there she was. Daddy, are you crying? Olivia's small voice shook him back to reality. The waitress approached, notepad in hand, no hint of recognition in her face. Can I get you anything else? She asked. Michael's breath caught. Sarah? She frowned. My name is Jamie. I'm sorry. Do I know you? Michael couldn't answer. How could he explain without sounding insane? But Olivia said it anyway with childlike honesty. You look just like my mom in the pictures. Jamie forced a polite smile. I guess I just have one of those faces. She quickly excused herself, walking away with a trace of unease. Michael's chest tightened. For 2 years, he had forced himself to believe the official story. A car accident, no witnesses, a closed casket. Dr. Lawson had told him not to view the whole body, just a glimpse of the face. The cremation had been arranged with unsettling speed, and he remembered how the hospital staff had blocked him when he tried to visit the crash site. Now Olivia's innocent question echoed in his head. Daddy? Why is Mommy pretending she doesn't know us? Michael's hands trembled as he pulled out his phone, opening his favorite photo of Sarah. Every detail matched. Even the small birthmark above her eyebrow, the one thing no stranger could ever share. His heart pounded as he grabbed Olivia's hand. We have to go. But Daddy, it's not Mommy, sweetheart, he said, though his voice betrayed his doubt. He left a bill on the table and guided Olivia out, glancing once more at the name on Jamie's badge, committing it to memory. Driving home, Michael's thoughts spun in circles. It was madness to believe Sarah could be alive. Madness to question what he had seen with his own eyes. But what if, as if to taunt him, a song Sarah used to love came on the radio, filling the car like a sign? Michael gripped the wheel tighter. For the first time in 2 years, one feeling burned brighter than fear: hope. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. Alone in his dark office, he spread photographs of Sarah across the desk like pieces of a puzzle. He traced every detail with his eyes, comparing them to the image of the waitress he couldn't erase from his mind. On the wall, he began to pin newspaper clippings of the accident, medical reports, and life insurance documents. Everything looked official until now. Suddenly, it all screamed inconsistencies. You're losing it, Mike. Completely losing it, said David, his brother-in-law, rushing over after a desperate 2 a.m. message. Are you seriously telling me Sarah, my sister, is alive, serving tables in some cafe, after we cremated her? Michael pulled up the blurry photo he had snapped at the restaurant and shoved it into David's hands. Look, tell me that's not her. David's sarcasm faded as he studied the screen. His jaw tightened. My God, the resemblance... It's not a resemblance, Michael interrupted. It's her. The next morning, Michael dropped Olivia off at school and went straight to the police station. Detective Parker listened with visible impatience. So let me get this straight, Mr. Davis. Your wife died 2 years ago in an accident. Her body was identified cremated. And now you want me to believe she's alive because a waitress looks like her? Michael leaned forward. She has the same birthmark, the same way of speaking, the same... Sir, Parker cut him off, shutting the folder. I can't open an investigation because you think a stranger resembles your late wife. Grief makes people see things. Defeated but not broken, Michael left. He began visiting the restaurant regularly, keeping to the shadows. Jaime, this waitress, lived an ordinary, quiet life. Bus rides, shifts, routines. No signs she recognized him. Until one evening, Michael noticed something chilling. A man in a suit stood across the street, watching Jaime. He scribbled notes as she left her shift and then disappeared into a sleek black sedan. Michael snapped a photo of the license plate. He called the only person he trusted, Marcus, a former private investigator he had once helped clear of false charges. 3 days later, Marcus handed him a folder. The car belongs to the Lawson Clinic. Michael's blood ran cold. Dr. James Lawson, the same doctor who had signed Sarah's death certificate, the same man who had insisted the body be cremated without delay. And there's more, Marcus continued grimly. This clinic isn't just about medicine. They have a neurocognitive research wing, funded by something called the New Mind Foundation. I couldn't get all the files, but their focus, experimental treatments, traumatic memory reconfiguration. Michael's pulse hammered. Back home, he dug deeper into Sarah's medical records. Buried among them was a consent form, Sarah's signature authorizing Lawson to include her in a clinical study if her condition worsened. But the handwriting looked hesitant, forced. Sarah had never told him about this. That night, Olivia wandered in holding a business card. "Daddy, I found this in Mommy's album." It was from the Lawson Clinic, a phone number scribbled on the back, in handwriting that wasn't Sarah's. Michael decided to confront Lawson directly. He booked an appointment under a false name, but when he arrived at the clinic, the receptionist explained the doctor had abruptly canceled all visits and left town. Through the office door, Michael glimpsed a framed photograph. Lawson, shaking hands and smiling beside a man he instantly recognized, the owner of the very restaurant where Jaime worked. Minutes later, his phone buzzed. Marcus's voice was urgent. "Mike, I found more. Jaime has no history before 2 years ago. No family, no past. She was placed here by the New Mind Foundation, the same group funding Lawson's clinic, and she's on a prescription list, experimental drugs, strong ones." Michael's breath caught. The pieces fit too perfectly. Lawson, the clinic, the restaurant, Jaime. It was all connected. That night, Michael made his choice. He couldn't trust the police. He couldn't trust the system. If Sarah was alive, trapped in some twisted experiment, he would uncover it himself. Careful not to be noticed, he began to follow Jaime after every shift. She boarded the bus like she always did, only this time she stepped off at a quiet stop near a low-profile building with a glass front. Above the entrance glowed a modest sign, New Mind Foundation. Through the window, Michael watched as Jaime Sarah walked in like she belonged there. A nurse greeted her by name, leading her to the waiting room. Her face was calm, unafraid. It was routine. That was all the proof Michael needed. His wife hadn't died in an accident. Something far darker had taken place. Michael pulled out his phone. At the bottom of his gallery was a locked folder, weeks of evidence. Lawson's car parked outside the restaurant. The suspicious consent form with Sarah's signature. Prescriptions he had dug out of Jaime's trash. The clinic's financial ties to the New Mind Foundation. What had started as a desperate hunch had become a case file. And yet one question haunted him. Why? Why fake a woman's death only to hide her in plain sight? One thing was certain. Whoever thought they could erase Sarah's identity had underestimated Michael Davis. The following night was the turning point. Across the street, Michael adjusted his binoculars. David sat tensely in the passenger seat, while Marcus quietly set up recording equipment in the back. "Mike," David whispered, "are you absolutely sure?" Michael's answer was steady. "It's Sarah, and tonight, we're bringing her back." They waited. At 7:45 sharp, a black sedan pulled up. Dr. Lawson stepped out, glanced around nervously, then entered the clinic. The trap was set. Using an access card provided by a nurse, one horrified by the evidence Michael had shown her, they slipped inside. She had whispered a chilling truth. There were others, not just Sarah. At the end of a dim hallway, blue light spilled from beneath a door. Michael signaled Marcus to start recording. Inside, voices carried. "We're making remarkable progress with Subject 7, Lawson said confidently. Identity fully suppressed. conditioning stable. She accepts the medication willingly. And the side effects? Asked another voice. Conrad, the restaurant owner. Minimal compared to what we've achieved. Imagine, trauma erased, identities rewritten. The military applications alone are worth billions. Michael's stomach turned. His wife was reduced to subject 7. He couldn't hold back. Michael burst through the door. The scene froze. Sarah lay in a reclining chair, eyes vacant. Lawson clutched a syringe mid-air. Conrad stood by a monitor displaying brain scans labeled Sarah Davis. David staggered forward, his voice breaking. My God, it's her. Lawson's shock hardened into fury. He lunged for an alarm. I wouldn't, Michael said calmly. Marcus raised his laptop, the camera feed glowing. We're live. District Attorney, State Police, everyone is watching. Lawson's face drained of color. You don't understand, Lawson stammered. This is groundbreaking research. Stealing lives, Michael shot back. Faking deaths. How many people, Lawson? How many families buried empty coffins while you cashed in their insurance? Conrad panicked, trying to flee, but David blocked the door. Michael dropped to his knees beside Sarah. Sarah, it's me. His voice cracked. I'm here. But her eyes were glassy, distant, lost in another life. Lawson smirked, regaining composure. She isn't Sarah anymore. Jaime is who she is now. You can take the body, Mr. Davis, but the woman you loved is gone. Marcus's voice cut through like a blade. Not as gone as your career. He turned the screen to show officers already watching in horror. We've documented over 30 cases. People declared dead, secretly alive, drugged, forced into false lives. Outside, sirens wailed, closing in. You fools! Lawson shouted. This project was approved at the highest levels. It will save lives. Michael rose, fire in his eyes. Then you'll be the one to explain it to them, because tonight we save hers. As police stormed the clinic, Michael saw only Sarah. Nothing else mattered. He pulled a worn photograph from his pocket, the last picture of them together with Olivia, taken the very morning Sarah was declared gone. Gently, he placed it into her hands. Olivia misses you, he whispered. Our daughter. For a moment there was nothing. Then, faint, fragile, a spark flickered in Sarah's eyes. Her fingers tightened around the photo. Oh, Olivia, she whispered, her voice breaking through the fog. Michael's hands shook as he placed a small teddy bear in her lap, the one Olivia had begged him to carry everywhere since her mother's passing. Fred missed you too, he said softly. Sarah stared at the bear, her lips trembling. A single tear rolled down her cheek as her hands traced the worn fabric, polished smooth by years of love. She remembered. As paramedics lifted her onto a stretcher, Sarah's hand gripped Michael's with surprising strength. Her voice, though weak, was steady. I'm lost. Help me find my way home. Always, he promised. Lawson and Conrad were cuffed on the spot, their empire of stolen lives collapsing in front of the cameras. Thanks to the live broadcast Marcus had set up, there would be no cover-up, no quiet deal, no escape. By the time Sarah was wheeled into the ambulance, journalists were already outside, calling it one of the most shocking cases of medical fraud and abduction in recent history. Sources hinted at dozens more victims still alive, their families mourning fake deaths. Michael climbed in beside Sarah, holding her hand all the way. For the first time in 2 years, he dared to feel something he thought he had buried forever: hope. 6 months later, in a quiet suburban house, Michael stood at the window, watching Sarah and Olivia playing in the garden. The sound of his daughter's laughter mixing with Sarah's voice created a melody he thought he would never hear again. Recovery was not simple. Some days, Sarah was herself, sharp, witty, full of warmth. Other days, she drifted, slipping back into the persona Lawson had forced on her. The doctors warned that the experimental drugs and psychological conditioning had left permanent scars. I still have holes, Sarah confessed one night, holding Michael's hand. Parts of my life, they're just gone. but I'm finding new paths to the memories that matter. The trial. The nation watched as Lawson and Conrad faced justice. The press called it the fake deaths case. 12 victims had been uncovered. People declared dead, secretly reprogrammed into new lives, all under a program secretly funded by a covert government division exploring memory reconfiguration. Michael clipped every headline, including the one that read, "Dr. Lawson sentenced to 175 years without parole." The photo showed him in shackles, his empire reduced to rubble. Conrad received a similar sentence, while 6 collaborators cut plea deals. The New Mind Foundation was dissolved, its assets frozen and redirected to compensate victims. The clinic, once praised as cutting edge, was repurposed into a recovery center for survivors like Sarah. Life after. David, once skeptical, founded a support group for families who still hope to find their lost loved ones. Marcus became a consultant for the FBI task force tracking similar clinics. At home, small miracles unfolded daily. One afternoon, Sarah surprised everyone by sitting at the piano. Jaime, the false identity, had never touched the keys, but Sarah's fingers flowed naturally across them. Some things live deeper than memory, her therapist explained. They're written into the body, into the soul. The most powerful moment came weeks later. Sarah looked at Olivia, not as a stranger she was meeting again, but as her daughter. She touched her belly, tears streaming. "I carried you here. I sang to you every night." Then, without hesitation, she began singing the lullaby Michael hadn't heard since before the accident. The lake. On the 4th anniversary of Sarah's death, the family visited the lake where her ashes had once been scattered. Together, they released flowers onto the water. "Part of me really did die here," Sarah said quietly. "The person I was will never fully return, but somehow, against everything, we found our way back." Michael slipped his arm around her shoulders. For the first time, the silence between them wasn't filled with loss, but with peace. Congressional hearings on the case were still ongoing, yet for Michael, Sarah, and Olivia, the truth no longer belonged to the headlines. It belonged to them. Their story was proof that even when hope seems gone, sometimes love is stronger than memory. Michael testified 3 separate times, his words sparking sweeping reforms. Across the country, death confirmation and cremation protocols were rewritten, and his case became a legal precedent studied by future generations. "You know what kept me going?" Michael told a reporter writing a book about the ordeal. "It wasn't just love or obsession. It was that first spark of doubt. When something feels wrong, even when all the evidence says otherwise, it's worth questioning." In the Davis home, a new family photo hung proudly on the wall. Michael, Sarah, and Olivia smiling together in the garden of their new house, far from the shadows of the past. Beside it, a small plaque bore the words that had become their family's motto: "The truth always finds its way back to the light." That summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Michael watched Sarah and Olivia together. He knew life would never return to what it once was. Sarah still had hard days, moments when confusion clouded her mind. But they had found a new normal, a new truth. Some try to bury the truth, Michael thought, watching Olivia proudly show Sarah her latest drawing. But even buried, it grows. It finds a way back. Their story touched hearts nationwide, inspiring families everywhere to question unexplained deaths and circumstances once dismissed. And in the end, one lesson shone brighter than all. When love is real, not even the most advanced science can erase it from the human heart. If this story of persistence and hope in the face of the impossible moved you, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts below, because no matter how deeply it's buried, the truth always finds its way back.